Hi everyone, welcome to the Rashid Saleh Show with me, Rashid Saleh, and of course Jason Sim, aka the Cushingite. We've just had the Sarawak Day celebrations, Independence Day, which was on the 22nd of July. And of course, this whole next 3 months before it comes to Malaysia Day is pretty much when we celebrated Sarawak's independence from the British before we joined Malaya to become Malaysia. Now, obviously, the theme we're going to have this time around is Sarawak, anything to do with Sarawak. And it's something that I think a lot of people, especially from Semenanjung, who always want to know what we're like, what kind of stuff do we actually talk about, and why we're so different to the guys on the other side of the water, I guess.
Yeah. Sarawak Day special.
It is. It's very special. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how we're moving ahead, how we're a lot more autonomous, how we're being seen as the movers and shakers, in spite of what's going on the other side, and
Yeah, so I'll start with a easy one. Like, obviously you've lived overseas in the UK, in West Malaysia. Like, do you feel, is there such a thing as a Sarawakian identity?
Well, for me, as much as I have been abroad and stuff, I've always been taught, especially my father, I suppose, my parents and my mother, that one thing that we never forgot while we were living abroad, and it was always, I guess, ingrained to us, was not to say we weren't Malaysian, but we were more Sarawakian in the way that we were brought up.
Obviously, your dad was around before Malaysia was even formed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was born in, I think, his IC says 1942, but I think he was born 1940. In those days, your birth cert came much
Admin
later.
wasn't great.
Is admin great now? That's still something we need to talk about. That's another one. But anyway, so he was already under the, I suppose with the Japanese. So Japanese occupation, then we went back to the British, and then he was independent, and then joined the Federated State of Malaya in Sabah, or North Borneo at the time, and Singapore
well,
to become Malaysia. For him it's different. For us, it was more pretty much growing up during the Made era. A lot of us, I can't remember, the one before him on who was the prime minister before that. I can't remember. It wasn't my time, but I will always remember. Obviously Made and beyond. But one thing that my father, my parents ingrained to us was to never forget our roots, being not Malaysian but Sarawakian first. It wasn't anything intentional. It's just because being Melanaus, they didn't want us to lose our language and our identity. So even growing up in the UK, I always joke about it, and we were always told to speak Melanau at home because, as much as we can, or even Sarawak Malay. But it was always that identity there, so that you never forget where you come from. So I use it until today, and it's so funny because even in school, whenever my brother and I grew up with my brother, we needed to speak our secret language. It wasn't Bahasa Malaysia, so we would speak Melanau or Sarawak Malay, and it's so different. Even here, coming back home, and when everyone calls us, there's this joke where, Melanaus are the Germans of Sarawak, because which is so funny because they're speaking their language. It's the German language. It's like it's Melanau. I mean, everyone speaks it. As you know, in Sarawak we have so much diversity. Everyone has their own language, but for us to be called, the Germans of Sarawak is. I find it quite funny. It's no insult to me because
So you're fluent in
my kids are quarter German.
Oh.
Yes, I am fluent in Melanau, and not as much as I could be if I had stayed here a lot longer. But yes, I do understand it. But as you know, even Melanau, as in a lot of our other languages here in Sarawak, there are different dialects.
Versions,
So, for example, I can give you the example of just water. Water is air in Bahasa Malaysia. It's Nyaam in Melanau Muka, but it's Anum in another dialect. And there's another one that I don't even know. I'm sure there's like a few more.
So when you moved to KL, West Malaysia, how long do you live there again?
Quite a number of years. I think
Quite a long time, right?
I was in and out. Again, it's like here. I've been such a nomad. But people say I've lived in KL. I've been in Singapore. I was also in Timor-Leste. I was also in Bali.
So I would think you'll get mistaken for Malay, like.
Well, I get
pretty
mistaken
easily.
for, I go to Thailand, they think I'm Thai. They refuse to believe that I'm Malaysian. And I tell them, hello, I'm from Malaysia. No, you're Thai boy, Where you come from? So no, I'm from Malaysia. To the point I argued with them, no, I'm from Malaysia, I'm from Kuala Lumpur. I'm speaking like this, no, you Thai boy. And then once I answered, I was like, no, okay, I'm from Nakhon Si Thammarat. So, you're from the south. It's like, no, actually, I'm Malaysian.
But obviously,
I go Myanmar, people think I'm Burmese or Myanmarese. I go to Philippines, that's it, I'm Filipino.
But living in KL, obviously with a name like Rashid Saleh, you.
Yes. Go on,
Yeah.
ask the question.
No,
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously get mistaken as Malay, like.
Well,
9 out of 100 times.
Well, here we go.
Or maybe 100 out of 100 times. Would anyone know what Melanau is? Even
No, they
at the
don't.
time?
But before I even mention my name,
Yeah.
they would look at me and do you know how many times I've been mistaken for one, obviously a Chinese, Singaporean.
Yeah.
Singaporean.
Yeah. I can see that.
Really? Oh, kill me already. And it's so funny because my Malay wasn't that great at the beginning because growing up in England, I had thick English accent, blah blah blah. It's not so prevalent now, but and people thought, I was what they call, we call it the goreng pisang. So brown on the outside but white on the inside.
Yeah.
So couldn't speak Malay. They laughed at me, blah blah, which is why I started reading newspapers just to get myself back into the being able to. No, I could understand, obviously, just being able to speak.
Was this something you had to explain a lot? Like, no, I'm Lanao.
Well, when I do explain in those days, and I'm not saying anything, but some Nanyang people are ignorant because they don't know what we are like here in Sarawak. And I equivocally will defend us because we're a lot more clued in, we're a lot more, I wouldn't say intelligent, but because we live, this life where we have so many different, we have so many different cultures within our state, our territory, that we understand that we don't use it as a different thing. I loathe the fact that whenever I explain that I'm from Malaysia, and the thing that's always been thrown out there or peddled in tourism is like, Malay Chinese Indian. Well, what about us in Sabah and Sarawak? There's a lot more of us who are different cultures, different, not necessarily religion, and that's what that needs to be separated. I hate the fact that there's, and we have this, like the new government right now, and it's like, no race, religion, or royalty needs to be, discussed, especially during elections and stuff. And it shouldn't, because it should be just about you being the person, what you're capable of doing, and criticize me on that. But don't criticize me because I'm someone from a different religion or race. That doesn't tell me anything.
I mean, this may be an ignorant question, but then obviously when we see in census and stuff like that, Malay Melanau is obviously grouped up together. Do you feel
That's what I
strange?
say. You say Malay Melanau, but But the thing is, it's not Malay Melanau. That's always been like, oh, it's Malay Melanau. What about the Catholics? They're not Malay Melanaus. What about the animists? They're not Malay Melanaus. It's just Melanau. This has been put through, I don't know whether it's been changed by the federal. I mean, I'm not an expert on this in terms of, how the forms get given. But it's like, I've had to fill up my forms recently. It was like race, Malay, Chinese, Indian, line.
Yeah.
I ticked the line. My name says Abdul Rashid bin Saleh. Yes, I'm Muslim, but the thing is, I put line because my race is Melanau. And I put in the thing, I added a text, it was a PDF form. I went, Melanau. That's right, Melanau Muslim. So just to let them know, yes, I'm line, but by the way, because people are like, oh, but you're Malay, right? Yes, the constitution probably says that, but our agreement, I mean, for us here in Sarawak, it's like, no, not really. We're a bit different in that. And yes, we may have the certain customs. Then what's the point of having Kaul? To celebrate the Melanau, coming together, Kaul and our festival and all that. So you're saying what? We have to, what happens with, this may sound controversial, with Indonesia, where they do assimilate everyone to have the Indonesian language. But that's different because they want everyone to understand the Indonesian. But it's come to a point where we've heard that even the Chinese Indonesians are like, but I'm Indonesian, I'm not Chinese. But when they get asked the question, what race are you? So I'm Indonesian. And they can't understand it because they've been so assimilated that they don't see beyond the race. It's a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's correct or not.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I know of a lot of Indonesians from Kalimantan really identify as Chinese, especially the ones in Singkawang and stuff like that. And obviously they share the language and the surname, but do you feel like there's a very distinctive like Melanau identity when you were living in KL?
Living in KL, no, because there was,
as a Muslim Melanau. Yeah.
Well, just as a Melanau itself, because we at home, we speak Sarawakian. Coming out, people used to laugh at me because why is your Malay so different? And I haven't lost it. I mean, I speak Bahasa Sarawak and Bahasa Melanau anyway, and I've never lost it. Just growing up, you see people who've lived abroad and they've got now, especially on TikTok, you see all these Malay guys, the older guys who've lived in the UK, and the Malay is just still so good because they haven't lost it. Yeah. It's the same with me. Just because we've lived abroad doesn't mean that, we always have this joke like somebody flies abroad, I'm going to the UK, and then 3 months later, hi everyone, my name is Razif, I'm from Malaysia. And it's like, we joke about it. But a lot of them, especially a lot of the ones who studied in the UK, and this is based on my experience, studied in the UK and, ended up living there and working there, they're still very platt. What you say, it's very... Their language, their accent is still very strong because they have a community there. They do practice it. But for us as Sarawakians, there's 300,000 Melanaus left in the world. How am I going to practice unless I go home and and practice? So yes, it is hard. But the good thing is I haven't forgotten. Yes, I'm rusty. Yeah. But I haven't forgotten it. People still laugh. I mean, they laugh at me. But now I'm being home in Sarawak, and it was so nice. And I talk about this now when I went to the Serahang Kakan, the ceremony of Kaul back in March, April, the opening ceremony before the particular festival itself, and all I could hear was people speaking Melanau. And I suddenly felt so at home. I felt so at home, and I was smiling grinning from ear to ear. My crew, the guys the team I was with, I mean the Iban boys and all that. Yeah. And I was sitting there going in Muka in a coffee shop, and everyone, people speaking Melanau, just looking around, going, "Oh my God, I'm home!" Nice. And I felt so like, for the first time, I almost teary-eyed talking about it, but. For us who've been, I suppose, deprived of having to listen to it, even if it's like another dialect. And you learn, oh, okay, that's just a different dialect. And I did, I'm speaking Milano to them, and they're looking at me funny, going, "Hey, this guy looks Chinese, but he's speaking Milano to me." But then I have a cousin who has a coffee shop in the heart of in the city, town in Muka, and I went to him and I saw him, blah blah blah. We're speaking Milano, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel so home." Blah blah blah. I'm talking and listening, and people coming talk to me and speaking to me Milano. I'm going, "Oh." They recognize me, but they spoke to me in Milano. And it was so nice to be able to do that. Whereas, growing up in UK and in KL, and people, oh, you're Melayu. I said, no. I'm trying to explain that it's just that we are different. I'm not saying that we're better or anything like that, but for example, you get like, you're Jason Sim, but how Chinese do you look? And then you have to explain, well, actually, my...
Do I not look Chinese?
Well,
Really?
You go to China, do you look Chinese? No.
Well, they speak to me in Chinese.
Yeah, well, at least you understand it, right?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah, well, and there you go. What problems do you face when somebody speaks to you, and what do you do?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't answer that much. So yeah, I mean, my Chinese identity is like a whole other story, but. Obviously, like I relate a lot more to, which is why I go back to the original question: is there a Sarawakian identity? No, we can get back to that. But is there such thing as Sarawakian identity?
Yes, there is. I do feel that because we're so. I think our identity is the fact that we're so proud of being Sarawakian. That's just it. And the way that we defend our honor, I suppose, so we call Marwah Sarawak. That I find it so good because, I have, and this is what happens. People always say, like, when you go abroad and then you see someone from Malaysia and they go, oh, orang Malaysia, blah 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 blah, and it was like, which is great because it happens all the time, and a lot of foreigners see that. It's not just because they're Filipino and all that; they get that. It's quite cool when you see that with Southeast Asians mostly, not just Asians, because in China it's like, oh, you're Chinese, but which country are you from? Oh, and then like, I don't understand what you're saying because you're speaking Mandarin, but I'm Chinese, and you've seen that, but with Southeast Asians especially, and more so now if we talk about being Malaysian, we get even more like when you find out I'm Malaysian, and then where was it? Oh, in Timor. When I was working in Timor, blah, blah, blah. We were talking, we found out, I went to the police camp, which is UNMIT, UN Malaysian Timor camp. And they were the field force police, I think they were from Perak. And we were talking, and I spoke to this Inspector Ambong, I remember his name. Found out he was Sarawakian. And then boom, suddenly switch. Blah 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 blah. I'm from this. Where you go? And we're speaking, and he was laughing. It's like, it's been a long time since I've been able to speak to someone in Bahasa Sarawak because everyone here speaks speak Malay, which is is the lingua franca for our in the camp, obviously. And then suddenly he meets this like Sarawakian in the middle of a country that's like so far out, and then. Yeah, and we were so proud, and then everyone, all the other guys were joking. Alah, jujur orang Sarawak, patutlah cakap itu, blah blah blah. We were like, yeah, like, and they understood the fact that we felt like we were like, oh, for that 1 second, like, I feel like I'm home, I feel safe, and it always happens that way. We are so different in the sense of, I don't know about the Sabahans, but as Sarawakians, wherever you are. When you find another Sarawakian, it is totally different dynamics to meeting another Malaysian. Malaysian is like, we're from Malaysia. When you meet another Sarawakian, it's like, oh, wow. I say the same thing when I was working in ESPN. So I think I related the story once, right? About me fighting with the
accounts lady.
Accounts lady. And then she found out I was Sarawakian. after that, my life became so easy.
You think it would be different if he was Malaysian?
Maybe, because, you know,
Okay, but, I mean, obviously, it's not no one can really answer it as like a fact, but as someone who lived in the East and West, do you really feel there's a difference in race relations?
yeah. When I grew up in the UK, and this was the 80s and 90s, right? Racism was quite prevalent. I mean, it was big. I mean,
In the UK.
In the UK. But the thing was, I call it ignorant racism because they didn't know who we were.
Yeah.
I mean, I was being teased and you know, the racism there, because I say ignorant racism because they thought I was from China, you're Oriental.
Yeah.
It was always the Oriental thing. You're Oriental, you are from, you know, from Malaysia, you're Chinese, you're Japanese, you're Japa, Ching Chong, blah, blah, blah. And it was. And for me, I laughed because I was like, no, I'm from Malaysia. I'm from Southeast Asia. And it just goes to show how worldly we were compared to everyone else. Malaysians, you
And
know,
I know KL isn't the whole of West Malaysia, but did you feel there was a difference in race relations?
oh, now you're talking about West Malaysia?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, because some strange reason we somehow live on trees. I'm not joking. It's like they have this preconception, except for the ones and
Is that still a thing?
yeah. You know, we have, except for people who've come over and lived there. You know, you've seen the posts where teachers who find out they're going to get posted into, like, you know, some kampong in Sarawak, they get upset.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's the same. You go to kampong in West Malaysia, you go to some kampong in Pahang, it's the same thing. It's just that the interior, we don't have the infrastructure. But why are you complaining about having to go all the way to some, you know, another place in your own country and going, oh my God, you know, this is really
Is
bad.
it maybe because
I think
there's a
it's just
difference of religion there as well?
No, I don't
No,
think
you
so.
don't think
I don't
so?
think that's it. It's just that everyone's built such an image of Sarawak being, you know, and I'm not blaming anyone. It's just that, you know, we are like, oh, they're so backwards, blah, 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 this and that there. They live on trees, you know, you have to take a boat, which is true. It's just our mode of transportation is there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it should be seen as a negative point of view. And somehow, somewhere along the way, people wanting to always be negative, and you just get the negative viewpoint. And I don't think that's fair to us, because, you know, some teachers, and that I know, love having the fact that they're going to teach someone, you know, like the NGOs, the teachers, people who come over, the NGOs, they love, oh, we're going to go to this jungle, we're going to be teaching this. Yes, it's a bit like, you know, whitewashing, whatever we call it, but they have a positive attitude towards it. Why can't our teachers who are from Semenanjung have that same kind of attitude, or same kind of positive thing towards having to go and work in the interiors of Sarawak? It's Malaysia, for goodness sakes.
I mean, from your personal life and your professional life, obviously an actor, president of MMA, like in sporting like departments and stuff like that. Do you feel there's a difference in race relations?
Yeah.
Among like West Malaysians themselves than it is over here?
There is. I mean, I'll say it. And now that being home, there is. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just ignorance. I have friends who are like, you know, who like, hey, sure, you got this and that. And I'm like, yes, we do. I've had friends who come over and like, oh, you I don't know. I mean, you know, what I hear about Sarawak, and it's always what I hear about Sarawak, you know, because you guys got rules or not, you know, to go in. I'm like, yeah, we do.
But I mean, among themselves.
What do you mean?
Like not like how do they see us as the race relations among like?
No, I told you. It's like they think we we live on trees. Oh, they're rich people, but you know,
I mean, among themselves in West Malaysia, Sarawak aside, like do West Malaysians like get along well? Like, do you feel there's race relations among themselves? Like, you know how
the
they always
Malay
say,
Chinese Indian thing.
yeah, you know, they always say like race relations in Sarawak is really good, and then like is that a real thing? Do you feel from
Well, you know
experience?
what? Amongst the normal people, there's no problem. I've seen you go up to Perak is a good example. The state, you know, you've got the Indians, the Chinese, and the Malays there.
Yeah.
Because because those used to be you had tin mining and all that, right?
Yeah.
And further up north you have the Indians and obviously the Malays in the rural areas and all that. I love Ipoh. Ipoh is a great town. I love Taiping as well. Taiping is like they call it the retirement home because there's a lot of old people there. We used to go and play rugby there in Taiping Tents, which is one of the more better tournaments, good tournaments for rugby. But people in the street, on the ground, they get along because they just treat each other as normal human beings. It's our politics that divides them. We all know this. You know, there's always like the Malay Chinese Indian, they don't get along, blah blah blah. But I know for a fact, these are facts. They do get along. I mean, there's stuff going on in Penang right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I find it so sad because, wow, one video just ruined the whole race relations amongst them. One video, and it's like picking up. KL, I think it's too metropolitan. I mean, we just hate everyone else who are foreign. You know, it's so toxic though. Like living in a city is so toxic. Big cities.
So do you think like the racial problems over there is overstated?
Yes, because of the politics, and once we start realizing that race politics doesn't work anymore, and it only sorts to divide, because it was sort to divide so you can get the votes. But I've noticed that the younger generation there, it's less about race, but more about surviving, because for them it's not about I will get ahead because I'm a better race. It's not that anymore.
So do you think our reputation for good race relations here is justified? Do you feel?
Here in Sarawak, I mean, I do believe it, because we have so much intermarriage here as compared to Semenanjung, and that has been something that has helped us just get along as a family. And what I'm saying, like with Sarawak, it's never been about the religion coming first or the race coming first. It was about having a family unit and understanding the family unit in Sarawak, and that's so important for people to realize that's how we operate. Because you don't get questioned in KL. It's like, you Malay, Chinese, Indian.
Yeah.
Here it's like, who's your father?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Like there.
Yeah,
It's not about
who's your mom?
Who's your mom? Yeah. What do your mom do? Who's your brother? You look at somebody, brother. That's the first thing they ask. It's not like you Malay, Chinese, Indian, or are you Bidayu? We never ask that. In Semenanjung, it's like you Malay or they don't know. Here it's like your father is your mother is So the family unit is the priority. Race and religion doesn't come into play at all.
Yeah. Obviously, we both come from like multi-religious households.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so if you were to like teach your kids, what is a Sarawakian identity?
Oh, my kids.
What does it mean to be Sarawakian?
My kids, so that's a hard one actually, because my kids are so multi-religious. national, and it's sad that they can't speak Melanau right now. I've never been.
But is that a prerequisite to have a Sarawakian identity?
Well, I do believe that should be. My daughter, I say both of them. My kids can speak multiple languages, but they haven't been taught Melanau. I don't think they understand yet. I mean, they're in this case they're 11 and 9, but
I mean, there are plenty of Melanau who don't speak Melanau.
Lots, but yeah.
Is it important for you that they
They
feel that
need
they're
to understand
Sarawakian?
what their cultures are. I mean, where they belong. Because there'll be a day they'll ask, and I hope they'll do the research and find out all about the fact that they are of mixed race. But obviously they're Malaysian first and foremost. But they're half Melanau, for goodness sakes.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
have
So,
to Kelabau Melanau.
as someone who has mixed race kids, and as a mixed race person myself, like I've struggled earlier on the concept of common identity, common language, right? Do you feel like there is a prerequisite for good race relations to have like a common language, and if so, what do you think that is?
What, here in Sarawak?
Well, in Sarawak and Malaysia, you can say as well, but in Sarawak as well, like I'll put it this way, like I think my parents got married because they both went to mission schools, right? So obviously English is like the language that binds everyone together, and I think a lot of Sarawakians would say the same. But I also believe like we all should speak fluent Malay as well.
Or Bahasa Malaysia.
Bahasa Malaysia, yeah. So do you feel that it's a prerequisite, like for everyone, like for your kids as well and things like that? Yeah.
What, my kids can speak Bahasa.
Yeah, and
So-
they speak English, obviously.
Yeah. As someone who comes from, we're Malaysians, so we should, our national language is Bahasa Malaysia.
Agree,
So everyone should be able to speak it.
Yeah.
Even if at the basic level, you should be able to speak it. If the fact that you're Malaysian, you can't speak it, and or even not understand it. I mean,
Yeah.
my half-German ex-wife doesn't understand, but she can speak a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, she understands and learns it and knows it as well. My mother-in-law, my former mother, German, can understand and speak a little bit,
Yeah.
and makes a point to.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, unless you're different. People can make any excuse they want. Yes, as Sarawakian, yes, the Dun speaks in English and all that, but it doesn't mean that the Premier doesn't know how to speak Bahasa.
Agree.
Doesn't mean our ministers, our parliamentarians and our state assembly people don't know how to speak Bahasa Malaysia, because we know and understand what we are Malaysians first and foremost. The fact that we prioritize English as our main language to speak beyond a business language shouldn't be a problem either. I'm not questioning the fact that we don't speak it because of the Parliament decided that, because we were a British colony as well, But we don't say that you can't speak it. You can't speak Bahasa Malaysia because it is our national language. So yes,
Agree. Yeah.
I do believe that even the Prime Minister says in Parliament they should be speaking Bahasa Malaysia. Correct.
Yeah.
It's our Parliament. If we start speaking, especially in the federal government, if they start speaking English, then we're saying that we are using it as our tools for other people to understand. But it doesn't need to be that way. Bahasa Malaysia will still be our national language because we are at this current moment Malaysians. Until something changes, or we decide that one day that we break away from Malaysia, then we decide what language we want, which is probably going to be English anyway.
But you agree that like Sarawakians should be fluent in both like English
Yes, of
and
course. We are all multilingual, and it's our national language. Goodness sakes, we sing the national anthem in Bahasa Malaysia.
yeah.
I rest my case.
Yeah. So multilingual, like being multilingual is like
It's a Malaysian identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, come on lah. In West Malaysia, they always joke about being able to speak in one sentence different languages and still, you know, like you tak nak pergi sana lah, you know, hiya, you know, boda lah. It's all like Malay, Chinese, Indian, all in one language, but we're speaking bahasa.
So do you feel that there's a need to like project this kind of Sarawakian identity?
Yes, we
media?
do. I think we do. And also in that sense that, you know, like I said, Sarawakians are very proud people. We do need to have our own identity. Like, for example, because you're looking at it like, oh, you know, do we need to do it? The Kelantanese are very proud Kelantanese. They have their own logat or Kelantan and all that. The people from Terengganu, people from up north, they all have their own accents and all that. They're very proud. Yes, they're Malaysian, but they have their identity. They're very proud of their identity. I'm from the north. Saya orang utara. It's like, so why can't we? The Sabahans, Nabah, this and that, their accents are different. It's through the accents that they have their identity. It's just that we're a bit different because we're the only state that has so much cultural diversification that our identity is that, because we're so diverse. We are true Malaysians in that sense, you know. When you know this, that we go, the form, the language that we speak in Sarawak is, in Kuching, yes, they may speak English, but the language they speak, when I travelled in the interiors, what do I speak?
Bahasa Baku, right?
Yes.
The real Baku.
Yes.
Yeah.
So great that the fact that they have that, because that what unifies us.
So being someone from the UK and then West Malaysia, and then you're one of the rare cases, maybe not rare, but someone like me as well. Like it's almost a reverse brain drain. So, why do you think like it's like, you know, Sarawak is like the place to be right now, or do you think this is all propaganda?
Cool. Wow. I didn't propaganda.
No. I mean, we're seeing Sarawak in the news a lot these days.
Because we do have a lot of potential to grow, to develop our state, our territory, with the infrastructure that's being built right now, and the way that we are forging ahead in becoming more educated. You know, the Premier has said that the kids are going to get free tertiary education in 2026 onwards. I think that's a great move. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, that hopefully will stop the parents right now to send the kids abroad. But again, we don't know what the details are. We have to wait to see what the details are, because that's devil is in the details, as everyone says. And we can do all sorts of great announcements and all that. And I'm not saying that, you know.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding, and whether SEA Games goes on, and we talk about this, whether, you know, I'm sorry, but I know this through experience. You can call me trouble, whatever you want to do, but these are facts. We have to build the infrastructure properly. Any infrastructure, whether it's, you know, physical infrastructure or the intellectual or the educational infrastructure, it needs to be built. The foundations need to be built. We can't go and jump ahead and go, oh, we're going to do this without doing it properly, or getting the basics right, or getting experts to teach us to be able to do it properly. Because Sarawak, as I said, we have the potential to really grow. But I also said in the last bit, we need the experts, we need we're coming back. I again and again, I reiterate this. You ask us to come back so that for us to be able to consult and help out. But you got to take us seriously. We can't just sit there and go and have someone go, oh, who is he? He's been out of the country. We know the country. We know Sarawak better. Why should you be helping us? That's the kind of fight that we face. We're like, hang on, you ask us to come back. We bring with us experience that we've done from abroad. We know how to change it, irrespective of what country you're in. For example, the broadcasting, I know it. Whether I'm in Malaysia, I'm in Indonesia, I'm in Timor, I'm in Europe, or in China, it's the same. It's the same thing. You go and study, it's the same thing. But don't tell me that I don't know my job, and because I come back and you don't know because we're different in that sense. No, I'm sorry, that's BS. Absolute bullshit.
Whether it's industry specific or even in a broader sense, do you feel Sarawak has a role to play in influencing how the whole country is run?
No, I don't think we.
Or do you think we should
we just stick to our? We're a good example how we, with everything that's going on in West Malaysia at the moment.
Keep your house in order.
We just look and go, all right, you guys sort yourself out because we still need to run our house and get our own house in order because, it is you can't. We don't have time to be able to look over our shoulder and get involved with what's going on. And I remember that there was this conversation about somebody saying, the Sarawak party is going to be competing, or rather going to be involved in West Malaysian politics. They're going to have that GPS in Perak and all that. That's absurd. And I think it's already been answered. Why would we want to do that? We don't have people there.
Yeah, I remember
there may be a lot of Sarawakians in Johor.
Yeah.
But no.
But do you feel we could maybe just influence?
In what way?
Well, maybe just just show.
We already are.
Yeah.
We already are. We are already influenced in the sense of that's why people want to come over and work with us.
Yeah,
that's how great our influence is. The fact that we've demonstrated to the rest of the country that we do work well in spite of our differences in our culture. And every person who's come down here to Sarawak has always commented the fact that we don't, they're like, they all look different. They look Malay, but they're not Malay. They are Iban, Bidayuh, but they look like our people. I said, yeah, of course, we're Malaysians. Yeah. It's just that we're different in the sense that we're Borneans. We are a different stock of people.
Yeah.
That's just it. If you know Indonesia and you know how diverse Indonesia is, people only see Jakarta and they only speak because people speak. This is why I said Indonesia has assimilated everyone to be able to speak Bahasa Indonesia. But you look at Bali, they are different religion.
Yeah,
you go to all the other provinces. I mean, you go Irian Jaya, they're pretty much people from Papua. They're Catholic, but they're Indonesians, and they don't look Indonesian. You look at the Indonesian football team.
Yeah.
Apart from the naturalized, and you got all these Papuan-looking people. They're from Irian Jaya. They're Indonesians. So yeah, I mean, we are in that sense a great example in terms of, in spite of our different looks and all that, we get along because, like I said at the beginning, it's all about family. Once you change the way you prioritize things, especially in Semenanjung, prioritize on being a family, everything will work out. But it's been so divided because of the politics. Malaysia is so complicated in the sense that because we have that we're divided by the sea, the South China Sea, and the fact that Borneans, or rather Sarawak and Sabah, has always been different in the sense of we've never been, I put it this way: the Thais are probably closer to the West Malaysians than we are to the West Malaysians. Especially southern Thailand,
Northern Thailand.
or even maybe, I'm safe to say,
Northern
like
Malaysia,
Singapore or even Sumatra are probably closer to West Malaysia than. I was just recently a jury for the mini film festival, and I saw a few films from Kalimantan. You know what? Those guys are so close to us in terms of that. Yes, they were speaking Indonesian, but they had, again, their dialect was so Sarawakian Malay. I was shocked because I never heard it.
Yeah, I was told this by my.
It was so weird. It was like, hey, how come? So I was like, oh, Sarawak Malay is Bornean. They're like Ajak, Sita. They were saying it. They had Bahasa Indonesia, but they was like, hang on a minute, we're the same stock. Not like. And that was so cool for me to find that out. Through film. Obviously. But yeah. But on that note, I just hope we just get along. We're all moving forward, and we need to stay together. I'm saying that though, I don't know whether it's through this government or anything, but people are starting to notice us again as a hub. And it's been a long time that people notice Malaysia being a hub for anything. Yeah. So I guess, there's so much we can still talk about Sarawak, but I guess we'll do it another time with probably another guest and quiz that person. Probably get Monday I'm gonna get Tony on board and just like
let's
rag him. Yeah. But from us, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye. If you do have any questions that you want to ask us, please do email us or contact us on our YouTube. But from myself and Jason, this has been the Rashid Saleh Show, and we'll see you on the next edition. Bye-bye.